Hi, I'm Shannon from houseimprovements.com. In today's video, I want to just show you how to basically get started on a roofing project. So this video is going to deal with getting the underlayment started, which in our case we're using a grip guard or ice and water protection, whichever one you prefer, as well as getting the starter strip and the first row of shingles going. So we've obviously stripped the roof off already, as you can see. You can see our other video dealing with stripping shingles. And we've gone around and made sure all the nails are pounded down and that there's nothing protruding. All the boards are tight and solid, there's no rot. So we've basically got the roof all prepared, we're ready to shingle. Depending on your type of shingles that you're using, some manufacturers don't recommend shingling over a roof that has individual boards with spaces like this. They may recommend that you sheet the entire roof right over top of this. Well, either rip this off and resheet it or sheet over this with 7/16 or 3/8 plywood. In this case, I'm not really too worried about it. The space is very minimal, and I've already done the other side of this roof 4 or 5 years ago, and there hasn't been any problems. So, but just double check with your manufacturer. They may void your warranty, so just be aware of that if you decide to go ahead the way that I am without sheeting it, that you may void your warranty. So, okay, so roof is prepped. We've got some of the ice guard rolled out so that we're just over in this corner ready to go. Basically what we want to do for that before we get started is we want to install a drip edge on this edge. Now I'm reusing the existing one here just because it was in good shape. If you're adding a new one, basically all you want to do is go along the eave edge of your roof with this aluminum drip edge, whatever color you decide to choose, and just install it with a few shingle nails holding it down, okay? No rocket science there, just get it on there. Don't worry about you need it up that edge too, up the rake end, but we aren't going to worry about that right at this stage. I'll get to that a little bit further down. Okay, so once we have that, we want to then measure our grip guard material, and at each end of the roof I want to measure up a measurement in regards to the width of your grip guard so that we can snap a straight line to get the grip guard running straight. Your eave here probably isn't straight, okay? You want your grip guard to be onto this metal for sure. I try not to have it hanging over because it just looks bad. The shingles we will hang over, but the grip guard I don't. So just make sure that the grip guard is going to seal onto this metal by at least 1 inch when you determine the height of that line. Okay, so snap that line as a straight guide. Get your grip guard up there. Roll your grip guard out in relationship to that line. Now the grip guard, basically it's an eave protection. And so in this case it's helping for ice dams and that sort of thing. Now depending where in the world you are, that might not be an issue for you. You might be able just to use 15-pound roofing felt for the whole roof. In this area there's an issue with possible ice damming, and that's a whole different thing. I'm not going to go into the explanation of that, but basically it's just water and snow freezing and melting and freezing and melting and working its way backwards up the shingles. So this is just an extra layer of protection to prevent that from getting in the house. In my area here, this edge of that material needs to be 12 inches inside the exterior wall below. So actually it would be inside the house line. And because we're a little bit lower slope here, we're actually going to do a second row to get us 24 inches inside of that wall. Okay, so basically we've got about a 24-inch overhang on our roof here. So my wall inside the house, the exterior wall, is somewhere under this area. So we're just trying to be 12 inches inside of that. And in my case, 24. So we're going to use a second row of this once we get going. Okay, so this material, it's much like a shingle. It's, you know, got the same kind of makeup as a shingle, but it's got this backing on the back that you can see here that we peel off as we go to help it stick down. Once the sun gets on there for a couple days, it'll just glue it, bond it right down to the plywood or the boards that you have here for your roof. So I'm going to roll this out And I'll just use the odd, I got my stapler, we're going to use the odd staple in it just to roughly hold it in place until it bonds down. Obviously once we shingle over it, it's all that's going to hold it down too. This material also, as you shingle over it and obviously puncture it full of a few holes, it kind of closes right up around those nails, just in case somebody's wondering about, well, why bother if we're just going to punch it full of 1,000 holes. But it does kind of self-seal itself. So I'm just going to roll this out a little bit at a time here. And I've got my line up here. I know you can't see that. I'm trying to keep this straight, keep as many wrinkles out of it as I can. We've got this backing started. It's basically split in the middle, so you've got a top edge and a back edge to kind of peel out. One other thing that you might have noticed me look over my shoulder, always be aware of where the edge of the roof is so you don't fall off. You just always got to be leery of that. Okay, so we're kind of getting that down. If it was hotter today, that would seal down quite well right away. We're just putting a few staples up in this edge just to kind of tack it there. It's a little breezy today, and I don't want the wind to rip it off on us. I'm just going to peel that out all the way, and I'll come back and get the bottom edge. If you get a little bit off this line, don't be too worried about it, but try to stay as close as you can to it. It'll just help everything stay nice and straight. Look back, make sure you don't have a whole bunch of wrinkles. Those wrinkles will just kind of show right through the shingles, even once you're finished, if it's really wrinkled bad. Get rid of that. Now on the bottom we've got the same thing. I mentioned about pounding all the nails down in the roof early on in the video, and part of it is when you're pulling that plastic out, they get snagged on any that are sticking up. So if you can kind of get them down. I've actually got, feels like I got something under there. Got an old nail under there. Okay, so we just had an old nail that had hopped out underneath that membrane. We'll stick it down. I'm going to throw a few staples along this end here as well. Okay, just to keep the wind from getting under it. I'm not too worried about down here. It's going to stick down to that metal pretty quickly once the sun comes around, and we'll be getting a starter row on there as well anyways. Okay, so we've got that started down, and the next thing you want to do is basically to get started with the shingling. Actually, before I start that, I'm going to talk about this drip edge on the side of the roof. Oops. So we've got a gable roof here, so we need a piece of this drip edge. This is the material right here. Okay, you'll notice I'm using two different ones. I've got a little bit different one here that I can get in my area. You may not be able to get that style, so you might be using this all the way around. That's fine. Now, as we progress up this roof, I've already talked that I'm going to do another row of the ice barrier, ice shield up here. And then from that point on, in my area, I've got to use 2 layers of 15-pound roofing felt on the entire roof under the shingles, okay? Along these edges, the gable ends, I actually want this to be on top of that felt, on top of this as well. So that, if you can imagine, if this is your side of your roof, okay, this roof goes out there, if water or snow or anything is driving this way and gets actually between this and your shingles, it can run under your shingle, come out here and actually get onto the felt paper or the whatever you got for underlayment, and it'll run to the bottom of the roof without going into the wood or soaking into the wood. Okay, if you had this underneath, if this was under that, under your underlayment, the rain and that could just go right between them and right into your attic or whatever, do some damage. So on the ends, you want this to be over top of all your underlayment. Down here, we've got it underneath because water's rolling down, and then it's onto here and out into the gutters. So, okay, so 2 different ways to do that. Now, because of the wind today, I can't roll this whole roof out with paper, or half it's just going to rip off before I get it shingled. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually leave this off until we get a little bit of the shingles started, and then I can, once the shingles are over here on this edge, I'll just come and tuck it underneath there and get it started. And then you know, once we get a little bit further, it's just because it's such a long length, if I just tack it down here and leave it hanging up there, the wind's going to rip it off in this crazy country today. Okay, so you will see at some point in my other video showing installing, like actually shingling the roof, you're going to see that piece on there, and hopefully I'll remember to mention about it again. So okay, now to get the roof started, we've got our underlayment. Perfect, we're good on that end. What we're going to do, this is the shingle we're using. We're using a laminated architectural shingle as our actual finished shingle. So you can see we've got some doubled up areas here. When these are all done, it looks really good. It looks like, you know, a shake roof, or, you know, a nicer style roof instead of just a 3-tab or interlocking, which most areas you can't get anymore. But anyways, this is just a normal 3-tab here. So this is basically your other option. It's 3-tab roofs like that. Now with the 3-tabs or architectural, you need to start with a starter strip. What that is basically just an extra layer of shingles right at the edge of the roof, okay, over top of your underlayment. You can buy a starter strip from your different shingle companies. Really, all you need to do is buy a pack of 3-tab shingles, same color as what you're using for your main shingles. Take the shingle, normally this is how it would be on the roof. Turn it half a turn this way, use this as your starter strip, okay? So we'll put this on. Our first row of shingles will line up completely with it. And what that does is it just gives us a double layer of protection right here, plus the underlayment. Okay, so it's just cheaper to buy a 3-tab and do it that way. You're still getting the same, thing. Now to get that started, we want to have a nice straight line, just like we did with the underlayment. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to measure the shingle. We're going to measure this one here. This is the 3-tab shingle we're going to use for the starter strip. And I'm just measuring the width of it. And what I want when it's all said and done is, ideally I'd like it to hang over about 1/4 inch past the drip cap. Okay, so that means whatever this measurement is, which I think is 13 1/4, we actually want to line about 13 inches up from the corner of that drip edge to follow, to get us nice and straight, and that'll give us our 1/4 inch overhang. Some people like more. I wouldn't go any less than 1/4 inch on your overhang. Depending how crooked your roof is, you may not, you know, in some spots it might not hang over quite that much. So this roof's fairly straight. So like I said, I'm going to mark my measurement up here on this end and that end, then I'm going to hand my partner there the chalk line, and we're going to snap that line so that we can get started here. Okay, so we've got our mark out here. I'm going to roll out the chalk line, give that to my helper. He's going to go all the way to the other end of the roof, and we've got a mark down there corresponding to the same thing. How are you making out? You're good there? Okay, and I'm going to stretch this out and get a nice and taut so we get a nice true line, just like that. Okay, so that's our guideline basically, so we can hopefully get a nice straight start to this shingle job. I usually like to do the starter strip just by hand nailing instead of dragging the hose along, and a lot of times you don't have the luxury of having a scaffold to work off right here, so you're working up on the roof, you know, basically hanging over the edge, nailing upside down. The nice thing with the scaffold that we've set up, it does a couple different things. It's mainly for the camera guy to have a decent area to shoot from, but it also is a bit of fall protection so that we don't have to be harnessed off. We have to be very careful still out at the outer edges, and we probably should be harnessed off still there, but this gives us the fall protection we need on this side. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of my stapler. Okay, so remember I said we're going to turn that one upside down just like it is here now. And the same thing, like I said, we want to hang off a 1/4 inch on this edge, which our line will give us there. We also want to hang off about that same amount or even 1/2 inch on the far end. So just want to take the time to get started out here correctly. And I can see that this is already a little bit, I think we're going to be all right. It's a little goofy here because this drip edge is kind of bent out of shape to match up on top of this gutter guard. Okay, so line the top of the shingle up there, on there. And we're going to nail up, I'm going to stay away from this end so I can get that piece in. We're going to nail about halfway up the shingle. I'm going to put five nails in this one. I would normally have one out there, and I'll be able to add it once I have that trim work in there. Okay, so you just want to keep going along, all the way along the length of the roof. Putting this starter strip down. Don't worry too much about what's going on down here. We're worried about this line we have up here so that we get started out nice and straight. Butt the shingles in tight to each other. Get a few nails out of here. You may want to wear safety glasses, just depending how crazy you're nailing. Okay, I'll do one more just to get us a little ways along here. And you could use an air nailer for this. I will for the main part of the roof, but like I said, I just like to hand nail it to get started here. It's just one less thing in your way. Okay, so you go all the way along the roof, cut it off with your whatever you decide you want for overhang down there. And then the other part of getting started is getting your first actual course of the finished shingles on the roof. Now with this particular shingle, we want to be nailing, there's a doubled up section here. We don't want to be nailing above this tar strip up here, otherwise they're not going to hold for the wind load that they're supposed to. We need to basically nail right along that tar strip, and that'll be in the double layer of the shingle. You can kind of see there's a line here. You don't want to have any of your nails below that because then they're going to be exposed. So there's kind of, you got a, you know, maybe 3/4 of an inch area there to nail into, and you want to be fairly precise with that. Now we're starting with a full length shingle here on this very first row. We're flushing it up. Really just flushing it up to the starter strip that we put on all the way along there. Oops, get down there, out there, and out there. And these particular ones, for my winds and roof slope and everything, they recommend 6 nails in this one. I'm staying back from the end so we can put that trim in again after. I'm nailing right at the tar strip. So I came in about 1 inch, or I would be coming in about 1 inch from each end, and then space the other 4 nails out within the shingle. Okay, just like that. So for this row, we want to just do that same thing all the way along, right on top of this one that we did. I'll do one more here. The subsequent rows after this we'll deal with in the next video. So you'll need to look for that. So we're just butting the shingle together, coming in about 1 inch into the tar strip. Nail length. If you're using an air nailer, 1 inch, 1.1 inch nails are more than enough with the air nailer for the main body of the roof. The ridge cap is a little different. You're going to need longer nails to get through all the layers you have. We'll talk about that in the other video too. But if you're anything that you're hand nailing, and you should, even if you're air nailing, you should have some hand nails around as well, because you're going to need them. You could use the 1 inch nails, but I wouldn't recommend it because you're just going to beat your fingers to death. So I like to use about 1.5 inch nail. Gives you lots of room to get your fingers on it, get the nail started without smashing your finger with the hammer. So we just work along like that. And really the only concern here to watch for is that you're not going to end up with this seam in this layer lining right up with the seam in the one below. Try to stay at least 3 or 4 inches offset. These two shingles are different lengths, so I didn't have to cut one or the other to get started to make that happen, so it should work out right to the end of the roof. But just be aware of that as you go. Am I forgetting anything? I don't think so. I think that pretty much handles it. So like I said, in the next video you're going to see us do more with this roof. As we get up higher, we're going to have some vents to go around, ridge cap, all that kind of stuff. We're going to deal with that molding down there as well. So hopefully this gave you a good idea on how to get started on your roofing project. And you know, we always enjoy when people come to the forum and let us know how their project turned out after they've used our videos for some help, or you know, maybe you get stumped at one certain thing, we didn't cover it, or you didn't quite understand what I was saying. Come to the forum, post your question up, and I'll be sure to answer you as soon as I can. So other than that, you want to get a little more sick of me, you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, you can check out our Patreon campaign, all that kind of fun stuff, and just stay in touch with us. And also any of the videos of ours you watch and you like them, click the thumbs up button. That'll help us out. Thanks a lot.